Three, one. Welcome everybody to Tech Talks. I'm Victor, here with Julie, and we have another episode this week for you. I guess that's the way,
The way that it goes when
yeah,
we are
that's how a weekly
here this
podcast
way.
works. And we had a couple of interesting stories this week, and that I thought I'd share with you. First, we have Google buys Fitbit. That's been the story that that's been circulating the news. What's going to happen with Fitbit? The other one is something that I recently actually just heard about, but apparently it's been a thing for the year now. Was Apple Pay and the fraudulent charges that are coming from Apple Pay, and there's a chance that it might be on other pay systems, but because of the way it works. But so far, I've only heard of Apple Pay, but we'll get into that once we start. So let's start with Google buys Fitbit. So as you hear, Google put a bid up for Fitbit last week, and Fitbit announced that they will be like working with Google now. The they even sent out an email to all the Fitbit subscribers, saying that there's no immediate plans for change, but they are working with Google. And this is what I thought. It's one of two things. It's either very good for Google or very bad for Fitbit. Because Google, if it decides to just utilize Fitbit the way it has built itself up, the brand has, because we've talked before between like the best smartwatches, and we concluded that for Android, unless you have Samsung and a Samsung phone and using Samsung Watch, like Fitbit is probably the best smartwatch out there. And Apple is its own thing. If Google decides to keep that ecosystem with Fitbit, or keep Fitbit the way it is, and not try to use the Wear OS that Google has been building and try to push it on Fitbit, but instead utilize Fitbit's operating system in their smartwatches, and then just incorporate Google Apps with that
That would be
ecosystem.
ideal.
That would be ideal, because then Fitbit can continue on the way it was. Google gets a watch that actually works
Works well.
and works well. The ecosystem that Fitbit has is pretty limited, but if it all of a sudden gets access to all the Google apps and Google Fit and all the apps that link with Google Fit, you just have a more robust ecosystem there to customize what you want. I think that would be the great thing. The other way to look at this is if Google decides to push the Wear OS on Fitbit, destroying like the Fitbit's operating system that it currently uses, that if effectively makes it kind of a worse program. And if Google pushes the Google Fit on Fitbit as well to make it so that Fitbit essentially throws off to the side everything that it's done in order to utilize the Google's architecture, which has been shown to not make great watches. So I don't know why they would do that, but they are the bigger company of the two. So,
But you would think that they are buying Fitbit because they recognize that Fitbit has a good product. You would think that that is the logical conclusion here, and that moving forward they would keep that better product. That if Google actually had a better product, they would not have needed to buy Fitbit. But such things have happened before, so
yeah, in the
we'll wait
past,
and see,
the
I
other
guess.
hardware manufacturers that Google have bought was the HTC, who they turned into making their Pixels. So they essentially wiped out the HTC line of phones just to make them build Pixel. Wait, was it that HTC bought? It bought one of those developers. I'm pretty sure it was HTC that it bought. Let me fact check this. But what do you think about the acquisition?
I mean, what we just said, that if Google keeps the best things about Fitbit, what really made Fitbit better and the desirable company that it was, the desirable product that it has, then hopefully it'll ultimately be a good thing. But just reiterating what you've said, if they don't and Google just instead decides to steamroll over and do their own thing under the Fitbit branding, I think
Mm-hmm.
that would be rather unfortunate.
Yeah. So this is the Google did buy Fitbit, or not Fitbit. Google
HTC.
did buy HTC, the at least the mobile division of it, and that was when that's where we get the Pixel lineup, and then they also bought the Nest, and they have required Nest to build a new architecture system for them that has been causing problems. Overall, I think if you're a new Nest adopter after the acquisition, you probably aren't having these problems. You probably are enjoying it.
It's just the people that had it and are now having to try to integrate
Yeah,
it with as what they had that was Nest only.
yeah. I don't think that same thing would happen though with the Fitbit. If Google decided to roll over Fitbit and require its Wear OS be used, it wouldn't just be the changeover, but I think just down the line that whole thing would be bad. I think the Fitbit has created a great product, and really it just needs to integrate with Google for the extra apps, like the extra ecosystem that it could have access to. Um, Having Google Pay would be great because right now Fitbit had to build its own pay system, which it's also fine, like it can keep it, but Google has more power over that. That brings us actually to our next uh, topic, which is the Apple Pay fraud charges. So on Facebook, actually, I saw somebody post that their daughter or somebody has had fraudulent charges through Apple Pay being sent to, and they found it on their bank account statement. As if you don't know what Apple Pay is, there is services, two major services, Apple Pay and Google Pay. And what they do is they link your credit card or your debit card to your Google account, allowing you to use your phone to pay for any transaction. You can use your phone as your credit card. It's a very secure system, actually, when it comes to how the transaction is done, which we can get that. I think we've talked about credit cards in the past and the PIN system that the new chips use and stuff.
So if it's so secure, how did this happen?
So, what's been happening is after hearing this, I looked it up, and there was an article from Forbes in May that was talking about this. There was millions of dollars being sent through Apple Pay. What happens is people are buying or acquiring stolen credit card information. And then they use Apple Pay and sign up that credit card for Apple Pay. The Apple Pay sends the application to the bank, and their bank is approving the application.
Oh.
Because you know how when we use Google Pay, and we had to, when we first sign up, you have to put your credit card in, and it's like, all right, we have to talk to the bank to make sure this is legit.
But it's interesting that the banks aren't verifying with the person.
Exactly. The people, there seems to be some banks, including the J.P. Morgan, which is Chase, that have been accepting these, and then they have just been charged to the card, or they've been charging the card, even though the card was not ever in the possession. So this was something that isn't necessarily on the system itself and more on the banks and their process of making sure that the applications that they're getting through are thoroughly vetted.
Yeah, that seems silly that they're just signing off and not actually checking anything. I guess it does put the liability, I would think, on the bank to now be responsible.
Yeah.
But goodness,
And
what a hassle.
yeah, I kind of I want to know exactly what the check is for that, because I don't know what it's like to buy a credit card online. I doubt that it comes with the email that's associated with the credit card.
Right.
Right. So if a credit card's being sent to a
Maybe it
bank,
does, because if they're buying these things online, the black market or whatever, wouldn't it have the credit card number, the name, the CCV, and like the email address, and maybe even the mailing address, name, like all of those things? I would think that you fill in on an online form when you put in your credit card information, they'd have all the same information.
the billing information,
Yeah,
they
I
might
think they'd
have the
have it
email.
all. So then if they're just sending that all to the bank really should be verifying, though. I don't know.
Yeah, that
Something
means
more.
then if they have the email though, they should be sending you uh, like they still
A
don't have the
confirmation
email. Yeah, because they still
email.
don't have the email password.
Right. And so if you're signing up for a new pay service, they should have to verify through your email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is the case. I'd have to
But
check how
it's
that
good.
system is. That's a just a thought. Yeah. Sorry.
It's good to know that, though, that this is happening, and that there is at least awareness around it. So
Yeah.
hopefully in the next, well, very soon future, not even week, we'll see.
Well, this article is back in May already from Forbes.
And this is still an ongoing problem.
I just read about it today on Facebook from somebody. So
Our world is just disappointing these days. I don't know.
I don't know exactly what's going on. I don't know the bank that they used or anything of that nature. I just
The person recently, you mean?
yeah, the person recently. I just know the Forbes article. The Forbes article specifically mentioned Chase or the JP Morgan, which is a very big brand that is nationwide that a lot of people use.
Yeah.
The idea of credit card, but then this also the same way that this happens, that makes me think that it might not just be limited to Apple Pay. It could be on Google Pay and
sure.
everything else, because the way
if the way that they're doing it, yeah,
if it's the bank just automatically processing. Now they could be going through two different processors. One of them might be working better than the other. I don't know.
Well, what it might be is that the criminals that are using it at this point, they're only signing up for Apple Pay, but it could be anyone's credit card being used on these phones, really.
Yeah. And that also brings me to the thought that usually phones, especially iPhones, they are linked to an iCloud account. And from what I understand, I don't know this for sure, but the Apple Pay would just be required to your iPhone account, or that is on the phone that you're using, and the Apple Pay. I don't think you could have a separate Apple Pay account
if you already have one.
So let's say you signed up into your phone using your Gmail. And then you have that linked to your iCloud and things like that. I don't think you could use your your AOL email on that same phone to sign up for Apple Pay. I think it would just use the Gmail that you have signed into the phone.
You went from Apple to Gmail.
No, you wouldn't be able to use your AOL to sign into
What
Apple
do you mean
Pay.
AOL?
Your AOL email.
Oh, okay. Does AOL still exist?
I'm just
Okay.
I'm just stating two different emails.
Okay.
right? You wouldn't be able to use a second email. This is what I'm sure. I don't know. I'd have to test that to see for sure. But it would seem kind of apparent that to Apple too on that side, if somebody else is signing into a new phone using your device or your email,
Your login, yeah.
that they should also get an email
You would
confirming
think.
that you get a new, because I know that right now on Google, once you have that, anytime you sign into your Google account, you use a two-factor authentication, and it says
Sure.
that you need to accept the
Yeah,
login.
so ideally, like if they already use Apple Pay,
Mm-hmm.
there shouldn't be able to be a second Apple Pay account. Unless these hackers or whatever that you call it, these criminals are sorry, I got something in my eye. Unless they are also getting the email and the password
I
for
don't
that
see
email.
how they would be able to
I
do
don't
that.
really know.
Not with the same thing that they're getting the
I
credit card
have
from. You have something in your
I
eye?
have something in my eye and
She
I
has something
can't
in her
get
eye.
it.
Let her.
Oh, yeah.
But those were the two big things: Google buying Fitbit and Apple getting the Apple Pay um, fraud issue. Hopefully, these things are resolved. I'm hoping that the Google Fitbit will do right by Fitbit and will be really good. I'm actually pretty excited for that. I kind of actually thought that Microsoft would be a very good contender to buy Fitbit too, because Microsoft seems to be running down the line that it doesn't have to come up with everything. It can let other people build things and then just integrate those things with Microsoft. I thought that was and I thought that ideology could help Fitbit expand and Microsoft. But those are my two. That's my thought on that.
Sounds good. More
Thank
next week?
Yeah, more next week. Thank you guys. It's another shorter one this week. Mm, but we will be back next week and we will have more for you. Thank you guys and have a great night.